Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready to start. I'm Svante Cornell. I am the director of the Central Asia-Caucasus Institute, together with our chairman, Frederick Starr. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Ambassador Khazar Ibrahim, who is the almost newly arrived Ambassador of Azerbaijan to the United States, who came over the summer. Ambassador Ibrahim is by no means a stranger to Washington. He is a career diplomat who served twice in Washington before. The first time from 2002 to 5, and then again from 2009 to 11 as Deputy Chief of Mission. He has also in between served as a spokesman of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He has served as ambassador to NATO as well as ambassador to Ankara, Turkey, in the last 4 years before coming here, which I think must have been a fascinating experience, and especially during the time of the Second Armenia-Azerbaijan War, which was last year, in which, of course, Turkey played a very important role. I should note that aside from his career as ambassador, Mr. Ibrahim taught courses at the eponymous university, Khazar University in Baku, which is, I believe, not named after him, but it's nevertheless a place that he has been teaching courses on issues related to his professional experience in his career. Ambassador, we would like to welcome you to the Central Asia Caucasus Institute again. You've been at our events many times, but not in this capacity. And we hope to have today a conversation about Azerbaijani-American relations. Professor Starr will be starting the discussion with you, and then we will have an interaction between us. And after some time, we will also let in the audience as relevant. Fred, the floor is yours.
Well, first, welcome, Mr. Ambassador. It's great to see you in this significant role. Azerbaijan has had a series of very talented ambassadors in Washington. It's not an easy assignment, and obviously we wish you well. My first question is the obvious one. What do you see as the priorities of US-Azerbaijan relations right now?
Thank you very much for hosting me, first of all, and it's great to be back both to the United States and also back to this wonderful Central Asia and Caucasus Institute events. I hope that next time we'll be able, as in previous years or previous decades, get in person also. That will allow us also to have more room, I think, for everybody. Right now I see only 3 of us. But anyways, the priorities, this is the big question for everybody when you talk about bilateral relations, and especially when these relations concern the global power like the United States of America. From my perspective, the top priority, in fact, right now for Azerbaijan-US relations is, in fact, to define these priorities per se. Because given the changes in the regional dynamics, given the changes on global posture, given the rise of others, given many other developments recently and in the last decade, first of all, we need to sit down, we need to discuss and see where these priorities are. We had a great cooperation on counterterrorism, we had great cooperation on Afghanistan, we had great cooperation on energy, we had excellent cooperation on reforms. Now we have to sit down and fine-tune and to see where we should do better, where we should do more, where we should do less, or what we should maybe reinvent, or see where the future priorities lie. So in fact, it will be very difficult to say for sure what are priorities or what should be the priorities right now. The top priority right now is just to sit down to identify those priorities.
Well, the 2020 war changed the Caucasus, and it obviously changed Azerbaijan's position in the region. How would you characterize that today, yes, post-war?
Well, the region has changed dramatically, I would say. This year, all the countries of the Caucasus, and to that extent, because we're at Central Asia Caucasus Institute, Central Asian countries celebrate either establishment or rather declaration of independence, or for Azerbaijan re-establishment of the republic, but it's 30th anniversary anyways. We never had a period of time within the 30 years when one country was not illegally occupying the land of another. This is the first time, and that's what this war has changed. For the first time, we're having the situation when territorial integrity of Azerbaijan is restored. And that creates actually a lot of opportunities for the region. Previously, Azerbaijan, together with Georgia, Turkey, and others, was moving forward on many projects, predominantly on energy side, also on transportation, also politically, the formats we established in the region. But now it's a great opportunity to have the region as a whole moving forward, being integrated together finally. So this is a real change we're having right now. Has it changed Azerbaijan? Well, we have always been a confident country. We have always been a confident regional player, and we continue this way. What it gives us confidence and belief that now we have the real opportunity to move things forward, and Azerbaijan is ready to cooperate and actually to take the lead if others decide or others desire.
And when you say regional, you mean including Georgia and Armenia?
Definitely, it includes both Georgia and Armenia. With Georgia, as I mentioned, we already have a perfect and excellent cooperation relations for the last 3 decades. And with Armenia, I believe it's a high time to have this cooperation and to move our region forward. We do not need any more instability in the region. What we need right now is economic development, well-being, prosperity, which I believe is real ingredients which we need to have for real and sustainable peace and stability.
Well, what kind of outreach is going to be made to Armenia? Is it going to be top down or bottom up, or both?
It should. I think both. Because if you look at the realities, we cannot run from realities. Nobody can. We can see. We can look in the data and see where the indicators lie. What is the level of prosperity? What is the level of immigration? How developments, innovations, and other stuff which are crucial for the development in modern era are taking place. And when we look at this data, we can clearly identify where we need to have more cooperation. And I think there we will have really bottom-up pressure to our regional cooperation. But from another side, from political level, definitely it will be top-down. And we already had a meeting. I was in New York when my minister visited UN General Assembly, its session, debates at General Assembly, and there was a meeting with Foreign Minister of Armenia. There were discussions, and we're ready to continue at different levels. And we believe both bottom-up and top-down approaches would allow to the benefit not only of the government institutions or political establishment, but also of people and citizens of the countries.
Will you, as ambassador, be encouraging members of the very active Armenian diaspora in the United States to participate in these new relationships?
Well, it's difficult because in order to engage, we need to have the opportunities right now. Look, we're meeting through Zoom right now. Through Zoom, it's always less in-person contacts. But whenever there is opportunity, of course, I would encourage because I think we should leave many things in the past. And for example, diaspora, Armenian diaspora in the United States behaves for the favor, how they declare of the Republic of Armenia, then definitely there is only one way, and which is a regional cooperation. We're ready to talk, we're ready to engage. We have never shied away ever from open discussions. Of course, we can have issues among ourselves, which is also quite normal. There is no perfect reality anywhere in the world, including the Caucasus. But if we don't talk, we're not moving forward.
Let me ask an institutional question. Are there any true regional institutions in the Caucasus, involving all three countries, in the Central Caucasus, if you will, or South Caucasus. Are there any such institutions today? Any?
Well, I always knew that you will ask these tough questions when you go into these institutional things, and you will puzzle me. But you being Professor Starr, you being Fred, it's always amazing to actually hear these challenging questions from you. And actually, they're not just challenging, but they're instigating, I think, further developments in the region, also on the intellectual level. You're absolutely right. We do not have any institutions right now, as we call Central Caucasus or South Caucasus, or you name it in a different way, which includes all three countries of South Caucasus, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia. But they are institutions where all of us are members, which are regional organizations. The first one which comes into my mind is BSEC, for example, Black Sea Economic Cooperation. And Caucasus cannot be seen away from Central Asia also. So basically we have this Caspian, and also we have this Black Sea geographies, which basically unites us. Maybe it's time to reinvent something. My president had a proposal to have 3+3 of 3 regional countries of South Caucasus plus 3 neighbors. There can be some other proposals maybe in the future. There can be other formulas, but my president put it very firmly that the region needs to move forward, and therefore neighbors and the countries of the region should cooperate. So there can be some educational, academic discussions, what we should reinvent, but the most important thing is we should talk to each other in order to have institutions or clear formats for our regional cooperation.
I would submit that both the Caucasus and Central Asia are under-institutionalized, and that the effort to link them through institutions involving other countries, while perfectly good, should be viewed as an adjunct or an add-on to institutions that involve only the 3 countries of the.
I cannot agree more. My personal point of view is exactly the same. I think first we should have ownership on our region, and then
Exactly.
you're absolutely right. Yes.
Well, we'll see. We wish you success on that.
Thank you very much. We wish success to ourselves as well.
Svante Cornell, you're on.
Ambassador, I'd like to turn to your previous position in Ankara, because you were there for 4 years, I believe, as Ambassador of Azerbaijan. And we all know that Turkey and Azerbaijan have had a special relationship back since, I guess, 1995, when Heydar Aliyev in the Turkish parliament made the famous speech in which he mentioned 1 nation, 2 states. Now, there were particular considerations behind his making of that statement that we don't need to go into right now. But I think what we've seen over the past perhaps 1 to 2 years is a shift, if I may say. In the early days of the AKP's time in government, there was not that much interest in Azerbaijan. There was even this little event that never happened really of the protocols with Armenia. But we've seen a serious intensification of Turkish-Azerbaijani relations, most obviously, but not limited to the Turkish role in the conflict last year. What could you tell us about how did you create this intensification of Turkish-Azerbaijani relations, or how did this happen?
Of course not. I was actually 4 months short of 4 years as ambassador to Turkey. Well, Turkey and Azerbaijan, and what Heydar Aliyev said about 1 nation, 2 states, it's not just words, it's not just slogan. This is a slogan which moved actually forward the bilateral relations. But it's so much into the nature of people, both in Turkey and Azerbaijan. And I think it's actual lack of expertise, I would say, in the West right now, that they do not get very much. Maybe we can blame COVID for that, but you don't go into the region, you cannot go or do not go and see what is really happening. And in Turkey, wherever I was traveling during COVID or before COVID, on the very, very basic level, in every village, you could see this warmth and this natural and organic feelings that yes, we are the one, and therefore whatever happens to Azerbaijan concerns Turkey. And exactly the same happens in Azerbaijan as far as the Turkish interests are concerned. When we translate it into politics, when we translate it into foreign policy, when we translate it into the security relations, then of course governments follow the public demand, if I may put it this way. But at the same time, of course, it comes top down when governments, when institutions, when the states make their own decisions based on national interest and national security. And to that end, in fact, the position of Turkey has never fundamentally changed. As far as I see it, Turkey has always put it very straightforwardly, the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Azerbaijan is a must. It should be restored. That's why it closed its borders almost 3 decades ago. And you know, many people are saying, well, Turkey did it because you are brothers. Yes, we are brothers. But when Turkey made this official statement, it put it very much into the terms of international law and UN Security Council resolutions. So therefore, it's not a surprise. It should not be surprised why Turkey was supportive of Azerbaijan. Maybe the difference is, what is Turkey today? So Turkey is a clear regional power. It has more weight. It has more to say in international arena. So that's what I see as the only difference.
Thank you, and we will return during the fall to a event on Turkish approaches to Central Asia and the Caucasus, including Afghanistan, which is in the planning stages. But let me just following up on the issue of Turkey. Now, following the conflict last year, there was a summit between the presidents of Azerbaijan and Turkey that signed something that looked very much like an alliance. Is that a correct, a formal alliance? Is that a correct interpretation? And is there, so to speak, a Turkish security guarantee for Azerbaijan at this point?
I don't want to go into the academic debate about what is alliance, what it's not, because things and definitions have changed. I mean, before Turkey, I was at NATO, and you know, Article 5, Article 4, has it been tested? Well, you have the Article 5 and Article 4 for discussions and consultations for decades, and you had only once the chance to test it. In fact, after attacks of 9/11, right? So it's very difficult to say what is alliance, what is collective defense, or what is collective security, where we find a lot of differences. But as far as Turkey and Azerbaijan are concerned, this is very different in nature. I don't believe that there are two other nations or states in the world who have the relations Azerbaijan and Turkey enjoy today. Period. I think this is the most unique relations we're having, and even without any statement, without any declaration, without any legally or politically binding documents, alliance between Turkey and Azerbaijan exists by its own origin, by its own nature, and it goes exactly through that slogan of one nation, two states. Even before Shusha Declaration, which I believe you are referring to, of June this year. I mean, if you can see on every international issue, on all things, Turkey and Azerbaijan were moving together. There was nothing which was separating us in terms of our foreign and security policies. Yes, now we have declaration. Yes, even without it, well, if we look into the language of the declaration, of course, it refers to collective defense. That's for sure, and it's much stronger than Article 5 and 4. It's if you take my background, what we learned and what's studying, so probably it's closer to what Western European Union had in terms of languages. But from another side, yes, it is declaration, and it's very symbolic. But also from another side, it is very, very important to understand that even without anything, Turkey and Azerbaijan were standing next to each other, and they will continue this way.
Given that you were an ambassador to NATO, I think we can this relationship between Turkey and Azerbaijan raises quite interesting questions regarding Azerbaijan's relationship to NATO. You are obviously not a member of NATO. You are not intending to be a member, but are you a de facto member of NATO? If you are under Turkish, this relationship with Turkey, you may or may not want to answer this question, and it may be a rhetorical one.
No, absolutely, it's not. But there is nothing de facto de jure in this on this direction. We are partners of NATO. We are strong and very strong partners of NATO, and we have always been with NATO in order to ensure and to have our contribution into international peace and security. Look at Afghanistan. Look, for example, we're talking about demining today, and you know how contaminated the liberated territories with mines, but we had a lot of projects also through NATO in order to clean up mines and unexploded ordnances before. So our relations with NATO, of course, do not have ambitions of membership, but at the same time, from practical point of view, if you look, they're extremely strong, and it's not just me saying that. If you look at all statements by all current and previous heads of the NATO, you can see that. Let's take the very last thing, Afghanistan, right? These shocking images we saw. Kabul airport, which was all over social media and most major media outlets. What was happening? It was only US, UK, Turkish, and Azerbaijani troops at the Kabul airport. Only 4 countries, and it was only one NATO partner, which is Azerbaijan, staying till the end and living with all its friends. And that's why Secretary General Stoltenberg made a clear statement that we appreciate 3 allies and the only partner, Azerbaijan, which was with us till the end at this airport. So this is quite telling, right? So without any political ambitions, we're practically contributing to international peace and security, be it through NATO, be it bilaterally, or be it on the regional level.
Thank you, Fred.
Well, I want to ask about a development that Azerbaijan has been deeply engaged in from the beginning, and that is new East-West transport corridor. Here you've spent vast amount of money on the new Eilat port, but the reality is this corridor has not developed with the speed and scale that one should hope would be the case. And I'm wondering, what is Azerbaijan actively going to do to remove the impediments, to make it easier to get goods across across the Caspian to the new port at Turkmenbashi or the Kazakh ports, but especially Turkmenbashi? And what is it doing to clear up roadblocks in Georgia with Poti and then the stalled project of Anaklia? Is Azerbaijan just going to be a spectator, or is it going to take an active lead and make this old dream happen?
You know, we are the last spectators in the region for last decades. We always are players, will continue to be players, and in most cases will lead. And on these projects, actually, we also lead. And you know that if we go back before, well, I was serving in Washington then, and we all remember when we had, in fact, some bans to US Exim Bank to provide any funds, for example, to Baku-Tbilisi Kars Railway, right? But what is happening after we made it happen with our own resources, with strong leadership of my president, in cooperation, of course, with presence of Turkey and Georgia, now US companies, US government, all international players want to be part of it. So therefore, we were active participants, but we were leading also on these projects. Now, practically, what we're doing, what we can do it to make it realized faster and smoother. One thing is you continue building your infrastructure. That's what we're doing. It's not just Eilat, it's also some other places. It's your general economic development, it's general reforms you're taking, like we're taking legislative reforms right now in order to allow things to be smoother, not only from a financial point of view, but also from regulatory point of view. That's one thing. Secondly, what you do, you talk to each other. When I was in Turkey, there were, I mean, what we see usually, we see the meetings of ministers, we see the meetings of top officials, which media covers, but they were basically daily or weekly meetings of the regional countries on the technical level. When we're discussing
including
exactly
Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan?
Absolutely, that's what I mean. I mean, when I was about to leave wonderful Turkey for wonderful United States, I had to fly through Istanbul. When I was staying in the hotel, you know, in every conference room, what I was seeing, they were trilateral meetings on expert levels of Kazakh, Turkish, and Azerbaijani experts, exactly on these issues. So therefore, we are discussing regulatory things which we should work on. We're discussing, again, fiscal things, which are really important as well. We're talking also some other technical details, you know, the things on the railways, which are technical. There are things on crossing the borders, because it's not just one way, it's multimodal. It involves both sea and land. So we're having these discussions, we're cooperating. So the second important part of it is, yes, we are talking to each other also on the technical and experts level. And three, it should not be ignored, we're also talking to any other partners who want to be involved. I mean, it should not be surprising for you, maybe it was surprising for some other experts. When I was in Turkey, once we had a meeting on Baku-Tbilisi cars with participation of the head of Russian railroads. So Russia is actually also was interested in using Baku-Tbilisi cars. So this is a win-win scenario when we put together all these transportation networks. When businesses are involved, then we forget about politics and other things. The thing is business, the thing is regional development. And when we have it, then we have no losers.
I hope you have more discussions going eastward and not just westward. But regarding westward transport, Europe is facing a gas shortage, we read, and Azerbaijan could potentially help alleviate that. Is this going to happen, and at what scale?
Well, it's not just potentially, it is happening. Just 2 weeks ago, first 5 BCM of Azerbaijani gas entered the European market through TransAdriatic pipeline for the first time, and will continue to do that. It's not against anybody. We have always stated it clearly that Azerbaijan is for cooperation, which is pro our interest, but also to our friends. So we are not trying to compete or to be against somebody or some other pipelines or whatever. This is for us exactly when the situation happens. So we have our natural gas, we're ready to sell, and we are selling. So therefore, when my leadership was telling that, well, we're building these pipelines as pipelines of peace in order to provide our resources in different directions, this is exactly what we meant. And we never played any games. We have always made it through business decisions, and now we're continuing this way. So now we have this Trans-Adriatic pipeline, we have Trans-Anatolian pipeline, which are fully functional, and Azerbaijani gas is moving smoothly towards Europe.
Svante?
On the transport issue, could I get your take on the corridor across Armenia that was part of the ceasefire agreement? That was a much heralded in Azerbaijan as a great, as an important part of, aside from the military victory, as a political victory to be able to have this corridor across the Nakhchivan into Turkey. What is happening with that?
Well, in fact, President Aliyev clearly stated that in his address to the nation, that he specifically included this provision into the trilateral statement. And what is happening is we continue our discussions on trilateral level. It's Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Russia at the level of vice prime ministers. They're meeting regularly and discussing. There is discussion. We are working on our side in order to prepare ourselves to make this road, this corridor open. And it's not, I think, a matter of if or whether it happens or will happen. It's a matter of when it will happen, because it is in the statement, it is binding, it is trilateral. There is a commission which is working on it, and it will happen anyways. And I think we have already, just a couple of days ago, I heard also from some Armenian officials stating that, they're not shying away from that, but they have their own, let's say, ideas about it. Well, we discuss it during these commission's meetings, but I think that the way forward is quite clear. It should be, it will be, and it will be to the benefit of all countries.
Can I raise a question about that border area and going across the border? Azerbaijan is one of the very, very, very few Shiite majority countries. Another is your big neighbor, Iran. What I want to understand is the Shiite factor at this point a object of discussion? Is there anything constructive going on the discussion with Iran as Shiites? And on the other hand, what is the state of conflict between two apparently very different conceptions of what that means in terms of the civil order?
Well,
I know this isn't first order business for an ambassador to the United States, but you're well informed on everything, and therefore I put it to you.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, in general, on the last couple of words which you said, well, for us, we never take religious or, to that extent, confessional things into consideration when we work on our foreign or security policies. Never there. For us, it's our national security, national interest, and international law, which are predominantly shaping our decisions. So therefore, for us, there is no factor like this. From another side, yes, we have the situation right now, which is quite tense. We made it quite clear that, well, when you're having military drills right on our borders, which you never had before in the last 30 years, that creates questions, and not only within the leadership of government, but also among the public. And therefore you can read through all social media and again major media outlets in the region, all these discussions, some useful, some harmful, doesn't matter. But the thing is, if we have the tense situation, we need to talk, we need to move forward, we need to understand each other, and we should not shy away from going very deep into this decision-making and foreign policy making processes of each other. So for us, Republic of Azerbaijan, as independent and sovereign country, is moving forward as the unifier, if I may put it this way. And we open, as I mentioned before, to cooperation and dialogue with everybody in the region for the benefit of the region. But when we see the situation which can harm, in fact, and send wrong messages, again, we will not shy away of clearly stating our position, regardless the size or any religious texture of that country.
I know this isn't a question that your government has an official position, but the maneuvers that you referred to, Iran's maneuvers on your border, were these directed toward you, toward the Armenians, or toward their domestic audience?
Well, it's better to ask them, but I don't know if you're in a position to do that. We'll never have an exact answer. Of course, we closely follow anything happens on our borders, and you know we have excellent capabilities to do that, and everybody on our neighborhood knows it. But at the same time, you know, as a confident regional player, we are strong on our feet. We talk very equally and confidently to anybody, again, regardless of their size, and we'll continue this way. So we don't know against whom they're directed from practical points of view, but the statements they made were quite clear, I think. They were mentioning against whom they were directed, but we hope that this, I would say, thinking will change, because this kind of actions do not lead anywhere positive, and it's not to the benefit of anybody, including those who are conducting these military drills.
Thank you. Dr. Cornell.
Mr. Ambassador, I'd like to ask you about another factor, which of course is not irrelevant in the context of the Iranian relationship, but that's you are a country that has excellent, as we've discussed, more than excellent relations with Turkey, but you also have wonderful relations with Israel. Obviously, this started off, as you'll remember, 20 or 25 years ago when Turkey and Israel had a close partnership. They don't anymore. Could you speak to how you navigate this? Is this something that is a problem for your country, or does it also produce opportunities in your diplomacy?
Well, we really want Turkey and Israel to be back to the relation they used to have. Of course, we are one nation, two states with Turkey, and at the same time, we are fantastic friends with Israel. And we'll spare no efforts to help Turkey and Israel to get back to normalization. I think it will happen. I hope it will happen soon and fast. I think it's just misunderstandings and probably sometimes some efforts by some outside powers, which are really not interested in having good relations between Turkey and Israel, because they believe that contradicts their interests. So the faster, the sooner the stakeholders step up to help both Turkey and Israel to get together and closer, I think that would benefit the entire region, because we cannot, and nobody can ignore that Turkey is a already established regional power to quite a large region. Israel, the same, is a strong regional power, and their cooperation can only benefit those regions where they're involved. Therefore, we will try to help. We believe in cooperation between the neighbors, but we believe even more of cooperation of our friends and brothers.
Thank you very much. I think there are a number of questions from our audience. I'd like to ask you to react to some of them. Several persons, including Fariz Ismailzadeh, who's a friend of both of us, has asked about the U.S. role in the continuing peace process and towards a negotiated solution, and also if there is a U.S. role in confidence building between the U.S. and Azerbaijan. Other questions that are connected to this have also asked about really the role of the Minsk group going forward in terms of if in this negotiation process. It seems to be sidelined. Is it still relevant? Is the U.S. role in the Minsk group still relevant, or should the U.S. play a role outside the Minsk group? I guess that's the way I would pose the question to you.
Well, U.S. by no means is outside and cannot be outside. And in fact, I mentioned the New York meeting of two foreign ministers, and in fact, it was organized by Minsk group. It was led by the United States co-chair, because this is a host country, in fact. So therefore, U.S. is in the process of helping Armenia and Azerbaijan to normalize the relations. Therefore, Minsk group and U.S. co-chair organized this meeting between two foreign ministers. It's absolutely right. CBMs are a big part of it, a big part of these discussions. We are trying to have confidence building measures in order to build more trust. Of course, it will be impossible. And I hope that also representatives from Armenia or Armenian diaspora is hearing or listening us. Overnight, it cannot and will not happen, but we have to take a step-by-step approach. We have to listen and talk to each other. And again, we are moving forward. Azerbaijan is moving forward. If you look at our economy, if you're looking at our regional developments, at our regional relations, you can see we are much better off, not only compared to our regional actors, but also in much larger context. So we will move forward, but we want our region to be together. So therefore, we believe that we need to talk to everybody and anybody. So therefore, these confidence building measures, which Minsk Group can elaborate on, might help Armenia and Azerbaijan to cooperate more. So therefore, of course, Minsk Group is there. Of course, it's definitely actions and the scope of action is on a different domain right now, but it does not mean that it will not help. In fact, they have more opportunities right now than before, because now there is no situation when the territory of one country is occupied by another. So there is more room for maneuver, less sensitivities. So therefore, through confidence building measures and other actions, in fact, and given the very nature of Minsk Group co-chairs, 3 permanent members of UN Security Council, 3 countries with the largest Armenian diaspora, they are the ones who can help to move the region forward.
There is another question about connected to the peace process, which is, or a couple of questions actually, which are related to how your government approaches the part of Nagorno-Karabakh that is not under Azerbaijani control, where there are Russian peacekeepers. How does your government approach this situation? Is there any plan to work towards a reintegration of the Armenians that are living in this region? You spoke about the fact that there is no occupation anymore. I take it that you, by that, you don't consider those territories to be occupied, or is that because of the Russian peacekeeping operation? And more broadly, how do you approach this? What is the perspective going forward for Azerbaijan and this part of Azerbaijani territory, which is Armenian populated?
Well, first of all, there is no Nagorno-Karabakh. This is now. In the previously occupied territories of Azerbaijan, we have 2 economic zones which are established by presidential decree. One is Karabakh, one is Eastern Zangezur region. And we are moving really fast in putting infrastructure, in rebuilding these territories. The first airport is ready. So we're moving really fast. I mean, as I mentioned before, you know, we have always had this confident policies aimed at building infrastructures, at creating rather than destroying. And what we have seen, what was happening, an entire world saw what was happening in the occupied territories. This is just shocking to see from the most developed parts of Azerbaijan, they moved during occupation to the not only least developed, but absolutely destroyed and looted. But now we are rebuilding it and making it the best. So therefore, politically and institutionally and administratively, well, there is no Nagorno-Karabakh region in Azerbaijan. There is Karabakh Economic Zone and there is Eastern Zangezur Economic Zone. That's one thing. Secondly, now we have Russian peacekeepers, and we have Russian peacekeepers because we have trilateral statement. And in trilateral statement, well, definitely it's clear indication that it's all territories of Azerbaijan. And therefore, we're having peacekeepers there. And it was specific provision that peacekeepers are being deployed while the Armenian troops are leaving. So therefore, there is no fact of occupation right now. There is full restoration. The point is that yes, in a couple of cities in the Karabakh region of the Republic of Azerbaijan, we have definitely Armenian population, and we have always been very respectful to them. And even during the war, there was not a single incident when we targeted any of the Armenians living in the territory of Azerbaijan. And even now, my president, all the members of the government involved in the processes, they clearly stated, and this is our official position, these are citizens of Azerbaijan. They have all the rights all other citizens of Azerbaijan have the same. as Azerbaijani citizens who are from that region. So what we need right now is this confidence building measures, these infrastructure projects, these political processes in order to allow people move to different cities and others. So therefore, 100% of the rights of all Armenian population residing on the territory of Azerbaijan, regardless where they are geographically, are protected, and there should be no doubt to anybody that will continue this way afterwards.
If I can just push you a little on that point, prior to the war, the Azerbaijani official position was that the government of Azerbaijan was ready to offer the highest level of autonomy to the Armenians in, I guess, what you would call the former Nagorno-Karabakh autonomous region. What I hear from you is that this issue of, is the issue of territorial autonomy off the table? Is there a possibility of cultural autonomy? What is it your government is willing to offer to an Armenian population, especially in Karabakh, that may not be, should we say, completely confident that just being a regular citizen of Azerbaijan with all that entails is quite sufficient for their security?
There are many other ethnic groups living in Azerbaijan, and they do not have any autonomy. And there are many other ethnic groups and nationalities living all around the world. And I believe the Armenian population in LA is maybe 10 or 20-fold larger than in Karabakh region of Azerbaijan. Do they have any autonomy? Do they have autonomy in France?
No, I'm just asking,
Russia?
since that was the position
So
of the
therefore, I'm
government
saying
who offered such an autonomy.
We should be realistic, right? So why we should have the hypothetical questions and have unrealistic answers to hypothetical questions? It's all hypothetical because, again, when we're having one ethnic group living in Azerbaijan, being your citizens, and you have other ethnic groups, some of them are larger than them, and there is no provision in our constitution about any autonomy on our territories, why we should consider. And again, if you compare it to other places, again, so these questions should be probably more to Washington, Paris, and Moscow probably than to Azerbaijan. So we'll see if there is any autonomy decision in Glendale. I don't know.
Here is a question for Baku itself and for you as its representative in Washington. I think it's unfortunately the case that there is no clear understanding in the United States among even the educated populace of what Azerbaijan is. It is a cultural mystery, basically looking eastward, because many of the presentations that have been made, representations of the culture and life of the country, have stressed what to many Western viewers or listeners would be considered exotica. Now, you know, one can love and respect Makam, but that's really something quite special. Requires very special taste. What my question is this: is the government of Azerbaijan going to take a more active role in presenting Azerbaijan's role in what we might call broader Euro-American civilization, or not? Because, I mean, you have a lot to present there on the intellectual side, on the cultural side. I think of music, classical music, I think of ballet, jazz, and all. You have a lot to present, but it's not been done. And let me say in the same point that on this point, your neighbors, Armenia and Georgia, could do a lot more than they are doing as well.
Yeah, well, I cannot agree more. Maybe it's because of our nature of I would put it, maybe I'm wrong, but it's my personal view. It's humble confidence. We very often think that what we have, on things we are right, on the things which can even offer and be the example to others, is well understood by everybody. So sometimes it's happening. That's one thing. But secondly, it's the issue of diaspora, because we never had big diasporas apart from the regional countries. So that could be another issue. So we took it for granted. And thirdly, maybe we're just bad in PR, unlike others.
It's not a matter of PR. It's a
right.
matter of identity. Look what you've done in the pop music sphere. I mean, that here you took Europe by storm a while back. It was quite impressive. But the government seems indifferent to the presenting the culture and life of the country, both the arts, and I mentioned classical music, jazz, and ballet, but also intellectual life. You have real scholars, real universities that are functioning on a big scale, and it's by and large not understood here.
I fully agree with you, and I take a note, and I will try my best. I will take it as unofficial instruction from you. So I'll try my best in order to change the situation. And in fact, I think there is something deeper to that too. I believe that if we more present the intellect, the culture, food, music, art, everything which can be identified as our soft power, that can also unite and help also political developments. And
yes, and let the Armenians and Georgians do the same.
Absolutely.
It'll help you all.
Absolutely. We're ready to cook, and everybody is invited to come. We are ready to present our music, culture, and art, and everybody is welcome to come. During Soviet times, I remember Zeynep Khanlarova was more popular in Armenia than in Azerbaijan, even though in Azerbaijan she was the most popular singer at that time. And there were also some Armenian artists which were very popular. And, this is the way forward. First of all, yes, you're absolutely right. We present our strengths, we show who we are. But at the same time, by showcasing that, it also allows us to mend the bridges.
If we turn, there are many questions on the conflict. Unfortunately, I'd like to apologize to some of the people who made questions on this regarding everything from cultural issues to POWs. But I'd like to turn to a couple of economic related questions. First is, you have a massive reconstruction project going on. And for those that are not aware, I'd like to remind the audience that Professor Starr initiated a project over 10 years ago with Azerbaijani experts who worked on the projection of what the reconstruction of these territories would look like. These experts have been involved in the process in Azerbaijan that are working on the actual reconstruction today, which of course we plan for one that would be a result of a negotiated solution. This of course is quite different. But one of the questions we have is whether there is a role for US companies in the reconstruction process in these territories, and more broadly, the US-Azerbaijani trade relationship, how can it grow?
Yeah, we really need to improve our trade relations, if I come from the last part, because trade is a locomotive. I mean, it's moving forward relations between many countries, but United States is a unique country. Well, look, Azerbaijan is by far economically strongest country of the region. But if you look even further, look to Europe, the very strong European countries which have very large GDPs compared to the United States, it's unbelievable gap. For example, I was traveling to Boston. I mean, like, when you have the GDP of almost $500 billion US in one city, or if you have GDP of $2 trillion US in one state like California, right? This is quite telling thing, that when you think about your trade relations with the United States, you should not think only from federal perspective. You should also go to the states, you should also go to the cities, you should cooperate And even compared to them, you can be smaller. So therefore, I believe one way, not only for us, but many others, Israel is a great example to that, right? So I learned that the trade between Israel and only the city of Boston was around $9 billion US, great thing. So therefore, on our trade relations, we're also trying to learn the best practices and to move things forward. But when we trickle it down to what can be done in Azerbaijan, what can be done in the liberated territories? Yes, we have huge infrastructure projects. And again, when you go to the liberated territories, you can see that there is daily development and improvements, the roads, the airports. But of course, the biggest problem is demining, where we do not and cannot have enough capacity to demine everything overnight or in coming years, because it's the most contaminated place actually in the world. And there is very little attention from, in general, international community, but many start understanding the scope and depth of it. Everything is mined. I mean, I've been to these territories. You can see the cemeteries are mined. So this is a very big issue. So while we're putting this infrastructure project, before that, we need to clean up all these landmines. And we're working very closely. We're talking to the US government also to work on that, also on demining issues. But at the same time, of course, there is a room for US companies to be involved in these infrastructure projects. And there is specifically room for the US companies, because what we're doing there, and how my president put it, we are not just rebuilding this territory. We're making them the best in the world. We're building smart villages. We're building smart cities. I went to Zangilan. I mean, the village where what we're building with all the smart technologies, actually you cannot find them in one single country, all of these technologies. Nobody has all of them. We brought piece by piece the best technologies from all around the world. And US has also clean technologies, smart technologies. So we are ready to cooperate with the companies, so they're welcome to come and contribute. And in fact, this contribution will be to the benefit of everybody. I mean, this region, I am absolutely confident in a decade, in a couple of decades, maybe in 3 decades, I don't know if I see it or not, but it will be completely integrated as a region, because this economic projects, this trade, transportation, will make the region of South Caucasus as one from economic point of view. So therefore, it will trickle down and make also development of our neighbors much faster and better.
Can I ask a very quick question? You and your colleagues in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs are very active and effective in presenting Azerbaijan's views of situations in the world today. Why do we not hear from other Azerbaijan citizens in the Western press, in the Western news, and so on? We only have official voices. Is this going to broaden out?
Well, this is a question I cannot have answer to, because I cannot force anybody to have the voice. But at the same time, I'll try to also support, in fact, some of our citizens who were quite active and are quite active right now. I mean, just recently in North Carolina, in Boston, in Maine, in Florida, and other places, I saw very active Azerbaijanis trying to promote, trying to educate in a very positive and constructive way what is Azerbaijan, to present and represent not only views coinciding with the government of Azerbaijan, but showcasing our strength. And that comes to your question before, showing our culture, food, art, and everything. And in fact, in many places when we have it, it becomes very multi and intercultural. You have people from Central Asia, you have people from Turkey, you have people from Europe, you have people from Eurasia, you have Georgians. In some cases, you have Armenians who are coming. So this is happening, and our people are getting more active. But again, I want to underline the issue I did before, that our diaspora is quite young here. So our diaspora is not as unified and as old as compared to others. So therefore, maybe it's not so visible, but I'm sure it will go forward. And also, I wanted to mention about your study on the reconstruction and rebuilding, the project you had. I still have your book, the green paperback book, which was published. And I remember the great experts you worked with. It was great study, and now what we're doing actually, of course, we're also trying to use all the research we had before, but now the situation is so different. There's so much and so many technologies which you can use. I mean, only in Agdam, I mean, just one example, the roads which are about to be finished, they are by far the best roads, not only in terms of their physical quality, but technologically in entire Europe. So this is just one example. So it's better to see than hear many times. So therefore, everybody has an open invitation just to come and see how the region turning into a paradise.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I think we are out of time. We could have continued this discussion for a very long time. I had more questions. There were many more questions in the audience. I'm sure we'll get opportunities to return to have you at future events. As we thank you for this very frank and extensive discussion, I would like to call attention of our audience to, and Ambassador, to yourself perhaps, on the next event, which is scheduled for October 13, in which we have a cooperation with the Jamestown Foundation, featuring Professor Starr, Glenn Howard of the Jamestown Foundation, and General Breedlove, who will discuss the Pentagon's gambit on Afghanistan, as we call it, the widely rumored discussions of the US and Russia discussing the use of Russian bases in Central Asia for possible operations in Afghanistan. And we will raise a question why Russia is involved in those discussions and why the United States is not talking directly to Central Asian states. With that, I would like to again thank you, Ambassador. Thank you to everybody who contributed to the discussion. And
may I add a very brief note?
Yes.
Those of you interested in following these subjects should take a look at CACIanalyst.org, and on Turkey, which has come up in the discussion today, our TurkeyAnalyst.org.
And I thank you very much. I also wanted to thank you and the audience. And if I didn't have opportunity to answer all your questions, I will be happy to answer them. You can send these questions regardless if they're harsh, easy, difficult, doesn't matter. Just send it to the email of our embassy, which you can find on the website of our embassy, washington.mfa.gov.az, and I'll be happy to answer. And you're all welcome to come to the embassy, so we have the discussions. And also, the very last thing, I mean, I will be happy to join also your next event, but I would suggest as a chess player to change the name, not to put as Pentagon's Gambit, because the Gambit's very nature is when you do something dangerous and you make something risky in order to get an initiative to win. I would rather call it Pentagon's Opening, because that would allow us to have a much more smooth and pacified approach towards the region.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you all next time.
Thank you.